Mr. President, thank you for having us.
Legendary pollster and strategist Frank Luntz welcomes us inside his own Oval Office at his LA home.
You can sleep in the White House and you don't have to be an intern.
We discuss Kamala Harris's emergence as the Democratic nominee.
It's a completely different race.
Donald Trump's VP pick, J.D. Vance.
Basically, Trump doubled down and took someone who's even more Trumpian than he is.
Plus, how teaching West Point cadets completely changed Luntz's worldview.
What do you think is the most important lesson that all of us can learn from them?
Truth.
And we tour Luntz's one-of-a-kind home, including the bowling alley, movie theater, pool table, and priceless memorabilia collection unlike anything else in the world.
It's the items and the stories that they tell.
Broadcasting across California, you're watching The Issue Is.
My fellow Americans, welcome to a very special edition of The Issue Is. I'm Elex Michaelson, reporting this week from the Oval Office. Well, kind of. This is Frank Luntz's Oval Office, a one-of-a-kind home for a one-of-a-kind man.
How many of you had a positive opinion of Donald Trump? Raise your hand. Overall.
For decades, Frank Luntz revolutionized the TV focus group.
Raise your hand if you're still not decided.
He used the knowledge gained from those voters to advise some of the top politicians in the country, at first mostly Republicans. His specialty? Choosing the right word to win the argument. For example, he's credited with popularizing climate change instead of global warming, death tax instead of estate tax, energy exploration instead of oil drilling.
Is he a unifier or divider? That's the key issue tonight.
Luntz is so good at what he does, he's met with virtually every president for decades and most Hollywood stars, from George Clooney to Clint Eastwood to the Monty Python crew to Roger Daltrey performing at his house. And oh, what a house! A love letter to American history.
What do you want people to think when they come to your house?
That there's no place like it.
It starts with paintings of America's founding fathers.
Where are they now? Where are people like this with honor and courage and conviction?
There's a bowling alley.
This is like the White House bowling alley.
And you've even got the stars and the stripes.
I had to give it a try.
Go, baby, go! Okay, decent. At least it wasn't totally embarrassing. I'll take it. Not bad, right?
7 out of 10.
There's a theater to watch debates and films.
This is kind of like the White House movie theater, too, right?
Yes, only nicer.
There's a pool table, once used by Ulysses S. Grant, and lots of campaign posters, including Ronald Reagan with his slogan, "Make America Great Again." Sound familiar?
Trump actually said, Reagan stole it from me.
We call this Frank's newsstand here that we're looking at.
Because this is my history.
That history includes shelf after shelf of the most iconic magazine covers of all time.
This is the very first TV guide. Lucille Ball's son.
All the newspapers here are also original.
Displayed here are some of the most famous newspaper headlines in history from some of the most historic days, like Roosevelt wins.
And they're headlines famous for a different reason.
This is what you call the fake news wall.
Yes, I don't think it exists anywhere in this country.
Newspapers that assumed what the story was and went to print too early.
All passengers are safe on the Titanic?
Yeah.
But not everything here is political.
This is the original patent to the light bulb from Peru.
There's an extraordinary sports memorabilia collection. Two of his favorite visitors, former Dodger owner Peter O'Malley and legendary announcer Vin Scully.
Two of them, every single room they stopped and told something really special.
And there's an incredible sneaker collection as well.
I needed to have these because I gained a lot of weight. And I needed people not to point at me and say, Frank, you're fat. So what I found was the brighter the shoes, the more likely their eyes would divert downward.
Okay.
And they would start with, oh my God, Frank, you let yourself, wow, look at those kicks.
But the signature room is the Oval Office, full of photos of Frank with presidents, and a bed that now serves as a guest room for Frank's friends. Frank says he never was able to take his own mother to the Oval Office, so after she passed away, he decided to build his own.
I wanted to say to my friends, you can sleep in the White House and you don't have to be an intern. And hopefully I achieved that.
And how do people react to, I mean, because people spend the night here?
Yes.
What's that like?
The usual response is, and it's slow, it's, oh my God. And they stand, this door opens up, Hail to the Chief plays, the curtains open up, and they stand there and they say, go in. And they're afraid to go in. I'm like, this is just my house.
Right.
But it looks so close. The desk is the absolute desk. The chairs are Obama's chairs. The side tables are George W. Bush's tables. There's stuff from every president since Harry Truman in this Oval Office. It's not meant to be a tribute to any one president. It's meant to be a tribute to the democracy that every president represents. So there's some, even the pictures that are around here, and that's my favorite. That one was taken, I was 17 years old.
This is you and Ronald Reagan.
I was state chairman of Teenage Republicans, and they invited me to see him. He asked me what I wanted to do, what I wanted to be. The most lovely person, the most decent and down to earth. And it's amazing in this environment today that we actually elected him only 45 years ago.
And what did you tell him that you wanted to be?
Told him I wanted to be president.
And how did he respond?
You may be. In this country, you can make that happen. Your dreams can come true.
We also discussed the current candidates hoping to sit in the real Oval Office.
We spoke to you at the Republican National Convention.
Trump's voters are energized. Biden's voters are demoralized.
So a few days later, the switch, Kamala Harris is now the nominee. What do you make of her so far, and where the Democrats are and where the race is at right now?
It's a completely different race. As of that moment when she took over, she jettisoned all of Biden's weaknesses. She's energetic. She's positive. She did not run a good campaign 4 years ago when she ran. One could argue that you can't count on a single hand or even a finger what she did as vice president. But she has brought people into the political process that were not voting, that were not participatory. Young people right now see someone they can relate to. African Americans see someone that they want to project into the future. Women see themselves in her. And this is not a short-lived thing. I know that Trump's pollster, who's made so many mistakes, is saying this is only a blip. This is not temporary. This is a fundamental shift in our attitudes. Does not mean that she wins. But make no mistake, she's going to go ahead of him. And he's going to be pushed. He's going to be on his heels, and how he responds. And as we're recording this, moments ago, he just did an interview with the Black Press Corps.
She was only promoting Indian heritage. I didn't know she was black.
It was an embarrassment.
It seems like there's a real struggle for him to try to figure out how to attack her.
Well, why does he have to attack her? Why? If you show that it's an attack, in fact, if you show that it's an attack, it's not effective. The best attacks are not perceived that way, because people don't like it when politicians attack each other. Accountability, yes.
So
attacks, no.
So what's the word choice for Trump against Harris?
Can you name one thing she did as vice president? And leave it at that. Can you name one thing she accomplished as vice president? 10 words. He's incapable. And all these people are going to watch this. All these Trump voters are going to say, you're so mean, and you're so partisan, and you don't like him, so you're criticizing him. Just once can he answer a question in 10 words, or answer with yes or no. Just once can he answer anything without delivering an attack. This room and what this represents deserves a lot better than that. And it's a legitimate criticism. She was number 2 in this country. She was given the responsibility for immigration. Now I'm going to upset the other side.
Yeah.
How's our immigration working out?
Well, her folks would say she was put in charge of investigating the root causes of immigration.
And what did she do there? And what did she do there?
How many vice presidents?
How successful has she been? What else did Joe Biden task her to do? In our lifetime, we've seen Dick Cheney, who is arguably as powerful as the president.
Yeah.
A vice president, and Joe Biden, when he was vice president, had specific responsibilities under the Obama administration. She did nothing.
In terms of, you're the word choice guy, that's what you look at. It seems like her team and a lot of the Democrats are now using the word weird to describe Donald Trump and J.D. Vance. That wasn't really a thing with Biden at the top of the ticket. What do you make of that decision?
That's weird. They're being weird.
Yeah.
I never heard anyone in my life And Donald Trump was running in 2015, so 9 years now. No one in a focus group has ever volunteered that Donald Trump is weird. They made it up.
What word choice would you use? What should be the Harris line against Trump?
Is this as good as it gets? And you'll notice that I keep putting it in questions. If I make a statement, it causes people to agree or disagree. If I ask you a question, you make the decision. It goes into your head. By using rhetorical questions, and this is stuff that I did do, I can bring 10 or 15% greater support over to the things I'm supporting. And if I ask, don't we deserve better? It's more like 20 or 25%, because it's inherent in who we are as Americans.
Up next, what key swing voters are telling Luntz about what they want to hear.
I feel that both candidates are more so running to prove a point to themselves.
Frank Luntz has probably done more focus groups with undecided voters than anybody else. We sat down with him inside his own Oval Office replica.
What is it that swing voters want in this election?
It's actually relatively easy. Number one is they want results. Say what you mean what you say, do what you say, and then produce meaningful, measurable results, a track record you can point to. Because that tells you what they're going to do in the future. Number two, they want genuine accountability. They want to know that you made a mistake. And the problem in our society right now is nobody will admit it. Americans appreciate it, but our politicians won't do it. And number three, they want a detailed plan of action. And the key word there is action. They want to know exactly what you're going to do. They want to know that you understand and empathize with the challenges that they have, and then you can solve them. I'll take you back in history. When Mitt Romney ran against Barack Obama, Obama had been president for 4 years. Voters believed that he understood them, that he empathized with them, but they didn't really believe that he found the solutions. They thought Mitt Romney was much more likely to find the solutions to the challenges. We had a crime issue then, we had an immigration issue then, and they thought Romney would be better able to do it, but they didn't see his empathy. They didn't feel like he understood them because he'd been so successful that he lived in a different world. Voters want both. The ability to solve it, but the ability to understand it, humanize it, and personalize it. This is why Trump does so well among what I call paycheck to paycheck voters, because they believe, whether it's true or not, that not only does Trump understand them, but that he's willing to fight for them. Just the swing voters see how he fights, and they don't like it anymore.
And do you, based off your focus groups, are we more divided now than any time that you've been doing this?
Not only do I think we're more divided, I can prove it statistically. And among those who are over age 65, over 90% think this is the most divided the country's been in their lifetime. They lived through Vietnam. They lived through oil embargoes. They lived through 20% inflation. They lived through the assassinations of Bobby Kennedy, Martin Luther King, and John Kennedy. They remember all this, and they say it's even worse now. 90%. That's why this is so important. That's why I take advantage of interviews like this. I'll put it out on the web. But I want to communicate that this is a beautiful, wonderful, exceptional, extraordinary country, and we're blowing it.
Yeah.
We still are this way, or we could be this way. But through our politics, through the way we treat each other, through society, through culture, we are killing the goose that laid the golden egg. And at some point, a country that is breaking breaks.
Yeah.
And I'm afraid that we're at that breaking point now. The most amazing students.
When we come back, how teaching West Point cadets completely changed Frank Luntz's worldview. Frank Luntz has worked with some of the biggest names in politics, but he says his most fulfilling job is teaching West Point cadets. He's introduced them to leaders from both sides of the aisle and took them to Normandy to celebrate the anniversary of D-Day.
I know you want to talk about politics. I want to talk about West Point cadets.
Okay.
Because
tell us about them.
They give me faith in the future. They cannot lie. Everything that they do, everything that's in their code of conduct is something I wish our president would take, in addition to the oath of office. They cannot lie. They cannot cheat. They cannot steal. They must tell you the truth. They must act with good character at all times, no matter what kind of pressures are going on around them. Their commitment to service, their willingness to sacrifice, makes them the most amazing students on the face of the earth. And I get the honor of trying to teach them why this democracy isn't necessarily failing them. And that is the hardest thing, and that's the yin and the yang.
So what do you tell them?
I tell them it doesn't have to be this way, and they can change it. They can change it through their service. They can change in the military. They can go into politics someday. They can go into business. But serving your country and the willingness to make the ultimate sacrifice. You know, these kids protest at Columbia and NYU and USC and UCLA, all these schools I've taught classes at. There's no sacrifice. It's all performance. These West Point cadets, it's who they are. It's what they are. I should be reminding other Americans that this is the way you should aspire to, because they are the best that this country has to offer. And we can be a country, and I can be stupid because they're standing guard for me. And there's a poem that's called The Watch.
Va maintenant lire The Watch.
And I never heard it before. I had the honor of taking my cadets to the 80th anniversary of Normandy. Because these 100-year-old men, still alive, who came on the beaches and liberated Europe and saved us. Because it says that the world appreciates it and thanks them for it. But now it's our turn. You've done your job. You saved Western civilization. You saved democracy. And we're grateful. Stand down, because we're ready to pick up the responsibility.
American World War II veterans, you stand relieved.
I did the same thing there, because my cadets were sitting right behind me. And it's them.
They're on the watch.
They're on the, yes, you get it.
Right.
And it's such an incredible honor to stand before them. George Washington, John Adams, Thomas Jefferson, and this wonderful painting of Abraham Lincoln.
When we come back, Frank Luntz on the best and worst presidents of all time and who he'd most want to hang out with.
I want to do a quick lightning round. Usually we do this game called Personal Issues, but I want to do it about presidents, just because I thought it'd be fun since we're here at the Oval Office. So, first thing that comes to mind, who's the greatest president of all time?
Washington.
Worst president of all time?
Jimmy Carter.
Greatest vice president?
Dick Cheney.
Worst vice president?
Andrew Johnson.
President you'd most like to hang out with?
Oh, wow. Reagan.
President you'd least like to hang out with?
Jimmy Carter.
Best ex-president?
Arguably Jimmy Carter.
There we go. Person you think that's out there right now that would make the best future president?
I got three of them.
Okay.
Mitch Landrieu, the former mayor of Louisiana, who's the best retail politician. New Orleans, yes. Best politician and lieutenant governor of Louisiana. The guy loves people. Wes Moore.
Governor of Maryland.
Governor of Maryland, military service, serious and effective, and a really nice person, but competent and the most amazing character. And the one that's actually made me do what I just did right here, Cory Booker. There are times when Booker will tell a story and it makes me so emotional that his success as mayor of Newark, he never forgot where he came from. All three of those people would make great presidents, and I point out to you that all three of them are Democrats.
And you worked for so much of your career with Republicans for messaging. It's interesting that what should we read into the fact that you say Democrats?
Just that I listen to those that I may have disagreed with, and now I prioritize character over policy. I think it's so important. I think we're losing this country not because of boneheaded policies, but because of arrogant, hostile, ineffective political leaders.
Is there any Republicans on that list?
Tim Scott.
somebody you'd want to potentially be president?
I think Tim Scott would bring a decency and a sense of faith to America that we have really shunned to our own detriment.
As we wrap things up, do you want to give us a final, concise closing thought?
Yeah, we have the potential to be exceptional, extraordinary. We are unprecedented and unparalleled, but only if the people who lead us commit to us over themselves. I don't want to use the word people over politics because it's too much of a cliche, but it's Americans first, not America first, not the stuff that Trump spews. The idea that we hear and appreciate and want to fight for those who don't have a voice in Washington. And that means the people who live in Appalachia who have no future. Mm-hmm. That means the family of 3 or 4 that are struggling in inner city New York or Los Angeles or Chicago. It means that we pay attention when things are going wrong. The mayor of Miami,
Francis Suarez.
He took a city that was truly on its knees and brought it to its feet. And I can point to several individuals that are like that from across the country. These are people who prioritize their own communities over their own success. And that's what we need more of.
Well, Frank Luntz, I feel better about the country after talking to you. Thank you so much.
You smile too much.
No, I really do. And it's just been an extraordinary visit to your home. Thank you so much for having us.
You're very kind. I appreciate this conversation.
Thank you for having us, and thank you so much for watching this very special edition of The Issue Is. And there's no way we're going to have a better background next week.